in about a year or so, it's going to be the 50th anniversary of Grand Funk Railroad. And what do you think about that number 50, personally and professionally?
I'm lucky to be alive. Yeah, I mean, when we first started out, I never had any idea that I would still be doing this. I'm 69 years old this year. I'm maybe 70 next year. And I never had, I didn't look much past my 40s. When you're in your 20s, you think that everybody in their 40s is about dead. So,
well, especially when you guys first started, it was the whole "don't trust people over 30" thing too.
Oh, sure, yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I've been able to do, really what I've loved doing. I got bit by the rock and roll bug when I was just a little kid. I saw Elvis Presley on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I got bit by rock and roll right then, and so it was all about, getting a band together and all that stuff. After that, it was, that's all I wanted to do. So, and I've been able to do it my whole life. It's amazing.
Now, with the music crossing into the half-century mark, how has the music of Grand Funk held up sonically and lyrically?
Well, a lot of the stuff that we did, the first, 4 or 5 albums, a lot of that stuff was, social consciousness. There was a lot of the Vietnam War stuff going on. There were drugs. There was this, there was that. And we were kind of always an anti-drug band. We weren't really into the whole drug movement. So we actually did a couple of charity concerts for a place called Phoenix House in New York, which was a drug addiction rehab place. And but a lot of that stuff was like that. And then FM underground radio, we were able to create 7-minute songs, 8-minute songs. It didn't really matter. FM then changed in 1972 approximately to being a hit format, and we had to start producing hit records, and making everything, 3 minutes or 3 minutes and 30 seconds long. And that's when we started putting out things like We're an American Band and Some Kind of Wonderful, Locomotion, those kind of things. So, the whole thing kind of changed according to radio, and the fact that we did care about being on the radio at that time because, we had been in a lawsuit with our former manager, and he had taken all of the money, and we had to survive.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we followed that trend,
I was going to say, too, when you bring up Terry, it's like you guys, I guess, are one of the epitomes of, like, the rock and roll story of such high heights of success, but also so many people that have tried to, nibble at the ankles and pull you guys down. With that said, though, with your experience with the fame and fortune, how much of that mirrored what you had hoped it would be, and how much of it was BS?
Well, a lot of it was very disappointing, and it still is today. The business end of the deal is always very disappointing because, it never seems to, it never seems to amaze me, or it never ceases to amaze me that, there's so much greed out there. People are greedy, and they get in a position to grab everything, and they want to grab, they want to be greedy. And, I guess that's part of human nature, so, you try to let it, not disillusion you, and you just keep, going forward. And, that's just the way it is. You brought up the fact that we were one of those bands that is kind of like the storybook of what, happens in this industry that's bad. Up until, the 60s and the 70s, it was the Wild West. It really was. Even the courts used to favor the managers and the record companies, because they just figured all of the artists were, kind of disposable and worthless, and that all changed in the 80s. The groups seized power, the 80s and the 90s, the groups seized power, and they changed it so that the groups had the power and the managers and the record companies did not, and therefore all of the contracts changed in favor of the bands, and the music and the writers, so everything changed. Well,
it's sad for me as someone who writes about rock and roll for a very long time that how many of these great bands, like I would assume all of the three of you had such great intentions, and yet the predatory nature of the people around you, it's just kind of depressing, you know? Like,
it is, you know.
it's like you guys just want to play music, and yet you're getting swindled, you know? But
yeah, one of my favorite stories, and I'll tell you the story. I'll try to be quick, but Joe Cocker, you know, when he hooked up with Leon Russell and he did Mad Dogs and Englishmen, you know, they put that on the road, you know, and he had a couple of you know, questionable people. He had D. Anthony was his manager, and Frank Barcelona was his agent, and they were kind of like the New York mafia of music, you know, those two guys. And they went out and did Mad Dogs and Englishmen. They did this huge tour, coast to coast. And, you know, of course, you know, Joe had an entourage, and he had, you know, 2 airplanes and, you know, all of these people that I forget how many people he was carrying around with him. But, you know, he gets to the end of this hugely successful tour, selling out everywhere, you know, and they gave him a check for $50,000, and that was all he got out of that whole thing. You know, there were like, you know, there had to have been, you know, $20 million there, you know, and he got $50,000, you know, that's, you know, that was the old school.
but it feels like that throughout all this, I would surmise from your own determination that you guys have landed on your feet at the end of the day.
We were able to take care of ourselves, you know, and we made the transitions that were necessary, and we're still working, and we're still, you know, that's become the new royalty stream, really, because, you know, you don't make any money off of CDs. What's a CD? You know, everything is downloaded, and music has become free, which, you know, the hippies got their wish from back in the '60s. You know, the hippies always wanted free music, and they finally got their wish. It's absolutely free now, you know, so. You know, you can see why, you know, all bands are out touring. You know, number one, it's because the music is kind of timeless, you know, from the 70s and the 80s, you know, and also it's because their royalty stream has gone away, and the royalty stream is now playing live. You know, that's what it is.
Well, great rock and roll has never disappeared from this planet, but it has disappeared from the charts. What do you attribute that? What do you attribute that to? Because I know it's out there. I see it.
Yeah, you know, you really have to search for it, you know, and every now and then the problem is you have to go on the internet and seek it out. You know, nobody's playing it. Nobody's turning you onto it. You know, the radio stations and even satellite radio is just absolutely disgusting. You know, I think
corporate.
All of the consultants. Yeah, well, the consultants.
If it wasn't for like college radio stations, you know.
Yeah, the consultants used to tell all of the FM stations what to play. You know, they'd be hired, and I think all of those same consultants have now been hired by, you know, satellite, and they're the ones picking the songs. You know, and it's terrible. You know, and I don't know if anything's going to change, because I think people have just kind of gotten used to it. You know, they look at the malls across America. You know, where every single mall has exactly the same stores. And with exactly the same merchandise, and it just seems like nobody cares. They don't want anything different. Now they're going on the internet. All the malls are going to go out of business, and they go on the internet. But there's still, it just seems like nobody wants anything different. You know, and those that do, you know, have to go out and seek it out. And it's out there. You know, it's just pretty hard to find.
I had a rock musician, a younger guy, tell me recently when I asked him a similar question that he thought that rock's going back to where it was in the beginning, which was the underground, and that it's going to bubble back up. And I hope, and I could see it. I mean, at some point, people it gets so plastic that you need something else. You need rock and roll, you know?
I'm surprised, you know, really, that FM underground radio hasn't made a comeback, because I would think that there's a lot of young people out there that's what they would like.
Yeah.
You know, they would like something different. And I'm surprised that there aren't you know, college radio stations and people out there, you know, doing, you know, like the FM underground. You know, these guys used to go home and they do their homework at night, you know, and then they take all their albums in the next day and they play exactly what they wanted to, whether it was Frank Zappa or Frank Sinatra. It didn't matter. They play whatever they wanted to, you know, and it was cool. It was very cool. Yeah.
If you mind me asking, what's your relationship with Mark Farner these days?
Well, it's pretty much just a legal situation. You know, we talk through our lawyers. You know, so we're not on real good terms with Mark. You know, it's too bad. You know,
is there a hope at some point, even just privately, to bury the hatchet, or?
Well, you never say never,
Yeah.
and I've said that, numerous times,
Yeah.
I mean, you never say never, if the circumstances are right and, the situation is good and, all that kind of stuff, it might come around to it, but,
Yeah.
there's no plans for it right now in the foreseeable future.
Okay.